cloud. Okay, start recording. After this, I can just split it, but I think I will start in the few minutes. So okay, I will not wait. No, let's wait for Aurel because I know he wanted very much to hear this. Yuval is here. Okay, good. So only Aurel. Let's wait for him 2 minutes and then we start. If he's not here. Okay, here is it. And Asaf Shilat, I'm not sure he wanted to be.
Just paste it on the engineering, do a channel, and that's it.
Okay, engineering.
No, do channel. Do a channel. Just no. Okay, here. Yeah, I see that's 67 people.
Okay, guys, I will start. I see we have all the people besides I think besides Asaf, and I can complete to him later if you want. So first of all, sorry.
I want to state that this is an optional meeting for everybody. So if somebody wants to skip, we need to wait for anybody.
Okay.
We can start on time and whatever. If somebody wants to skip it, they can. It's not mandatory.
Okay, no problem. So let's start. Everybody can see the presentation. Okay. First of all, I would like to congratulate you on being the first audience of the brown bag. I recently just noticed the idea about brown bag, which is like the bags for the meals in the lunch, which is supposed to be easy to digest. So the idea is not to try to enforce any subject like to be drilled down and very in very hard manner, just to give a quick overview and to open our minds. And so I hope this will be a good idea, which will hold and will give us a real value, because it's very hard to make a real values from the meetings. So we are trying to do that, and I hope that we can succeed. And it all depends on you guys. If you make the lecture easy and fun, there's no doubt that some materials will be available to you in the future. So we are going to talk about today the TDD. First of all, I'm going to present what is the TDD. TDD is a method, is a paradigm for developing software, which is consisted by basic 3 steps. First steps, called the red stage, is to write a test and watch it failed, which means before you even write the software code, you write the test, which is very if you take a thought of it, it's very far-fetched. Like, it's very unreasonable, because software is about code. So why should I write a test before the code? So this idea is revolutionary. There's no doubt. Whoever succeeded to catch this paradigm is a revolution. So first you write the test, watch is failed, and the green stage, write just enough code to pass the test. And this word, take it by the word, like write the minimum code as you can to pass the test. And the third cycle is the refactor stage, which after you succeeding to pass the test, you improve the code. To improve the code can be change the interface, change the extract to method, extract to class, refactoring, everything, but without changing its behavior, which means that the basic test is still passing. And once you go over the refactor, you go back to stage one, write the test to failed, write enough code, and all over you're doing the cycle all over again until, without noticing, and we will see that in an example, your code is passing, your code is succeeding, the task is done. TDD is, in a 3 simple words, a method that exists for many years, not bounding to specific program language. Every program language in the world, you can do a TDD. Every program that you can write tests, even C. I saw a lecture of a guy writing TDD in C, which was funny in the start, but in the end, it's very reasonable. And 3, not for everyone. And I use this method. I like this method. There's no idea, and it helped me a lot. Not long ago, some person who is new in software asked me. I told them about the experience of me becoming a software developer, and the first year was a little hard for me because I was very nervous, and the second year I was a little bit frightened of code. And somebody asked for me, when did you stop fearing code? And I told them I looked for something that give meaning to what I do, that I can do it, and it has a very strict paradigm that I can enforce it on my code, and then things will become very easy for me. And I looked for it in order to reduce my anxiety about code, and I found TDD. So TDD helped me stop fear from code and make a reason for everything I do. So in the same TDD, okay, and let's get to why TDD, and then you will able to see why I stopped fear from code, my fear from code. So why TDD? 1, leads to better design. Okay, the tests enforce specific code design and support many design principles. Single responsibility principle, don't repeat yourself principle, keep it simple, and many more. Almost every principle in code, while using TDD, solve this principle. For example, the single responsibility principle. If you use TDD and you don't do this principle, so the test will become so hard to maintain that you ask yourself, so why I keep the test that way? I have to split the classes. In every classes does something in order for the class to be testable. And if I don't do that, it will be very hard to do TDD. So the TDD is it's not in chance called test driven development, because it's driven me to do a better design. 2, enforces better testing. Test on the behavior rather just make tests to increase the code coverage. And it's very important because as we write the test, as we write the code, in the same second, we also write the test. And imagine yourself how much is the test is better when we actually write the code. And I tell you, it's not only better, it's superior when we do the test when we write the code, instead of like 2 weeks from when we write the code. Who remember his code in 2 weeks? Who remember all the bits and bytes of the behavior? So it enforces this, and by doing that, actually it increased the code coverage. It's not only increasing the code coverage, it's causing the code coverage to be above 90%, which is something that most of the companies can only dream of. And 3, fun. It actually become fun once you acquire the knowledge of how to do the TDD. and you playing a game of I make the test failed and I make the test pass and now I'm refactoring, and it's a game all of a sudden. So it's fun and it's important, because if something is not fun, then it's not worth doing it. I in every way you have to make the thing you do to be fun. So I talked a lot now, and I want us to do something. So I want us to do a software, which is not surprising, yeah. But let's do a software of the kata bowling. Kata bowling, bowling is mainly the first example that people, when I explain TDD, use this example. So let's go. By the way, if somebody have a question during that he wants to understand something, so please ask it while I'm explaining, because I want all the people to understand everything that we do. So let's go over the bowling rules for a second, okay? The goal is to knock down all 10 pins, which every frame give 10 pins, and we have to knock down. Each frame consisting of throwing the ball twice to knock down all the pins. The ideal is to knock down all the pins. If you knock down all the pins within the first ball, it's called a strike, and then the frame is over, because the ideal of the frame is to knock down all the balls. If you knock down all the pins, sorry. If you knock down all the pins with the second ball, it's called a spare. It's just terminology for the bowling. Each game consists of 10 frames. If you bowl a strike in the 10th frame, you get 2 more balls. If you throw a spare, you get 1 more ball. Open frames are frames without a strike or spare. Not important. Scoring is based on the number of pins you knock down. Now, however, if you bowl a spare, you get to add the pins in your next ball to that frame. For strike, you get the next 2 balls. Okay, so this is the rules. The rules is pretty easy, but if you are like me, then you beginning to feel a little bit of fear to write this code, right? Because it's not that trivial. So let's try to actually write the code. Okay. So let's create. I have here a bowling kata, just a project, a Maven project that I opened, not something too serious. And let's. By the way, I'm doing it with you guys, so I'm here risking of the code will not succeed. So don't judge me if I'm too nervous and I'm not doing the code right. So TDD is writing the test first, okay? So that's exactly what I'm going to do. And the first test, by the way, another thing that I might put people on the spot, because a wise person told me that even though it's a little bit frightening for a person, it encouraged to be more involved. So if I ask somebody, so don't be frightened. So the first test that I can think of it is just I want things to compile. So I want to be able to see that everything compiled and I can create a game. Okay. So I succeeded of doing that. And the second test is because it's a bowling game. Okay. So I should be able to roll a ball. Okay, this is the first method that I can think of. So I'm doing the roll ball and the test fails. The test fails of compilation. So let's solve this problem in the easiest way that I can possibly think, right? TDD. I'm doing now the second step, which is the make the test pass. And let's call it pins. Okay. And let's see, all the tests is pass, and all the tests is passes. So after this, I'm at refactor stage. So I'm refactoring, and what I can refactor is I can extract this bowling game into field. And I see I no longer need the test because it doesn't do anything. So I can just do like this.
So you're also
And now-
refactoring the testing code for that, not just
Yes.
the tested one?
Yes, the refactoring is include the code and the test, because the test is very important to keep it simple, because test tends to be very messy, and I think the test should be even cleaner than the code, because the person who looks at the test, a developer who doesn't know the code, can potentially understand everything the code doing by only looking at the test if they well written. So a real pro, as Uncle Bob, which is the master of TDD, said, are keeping their code clean. So I want to do the next test. So anybody can tell me what they think should be the next test for this bowling game?
Probably the scores.
Yes. Some. Let's say gutter, because I will roll 0, and I will assert equals that the score is 0, bowling game score. And here I have to write another method. So the test is driven me to write this method. I'm not writing the method on myself and writing the score. And I have to write the minimal code to make the test pass. So it passes, actually. It passes, so I didn't do much, and I don't need to do refactor. So what is the text? So now I want us to think, what is the next test that will driven my code, and I need a test that will fail. Okay, so anybody can just tell me. Let's like ask maybe Arel. You want to try to think of what is the next test to be that we can written, or Jonathan, or
What will fail?
what will fail and will drive our code. We can roll 0. If we roll 0 balls, we get a 0 score.
Yeah, so if you roll 0 and expected result is not 0, then it will fail.
Correct. So let's say to score 1. Okay, so let's say if I roll a ball, if I roll 1, or then I expect the score to be 1. But it's a very this test is like a bit too slow. I want it to be a little bit faster. So little bit. So let's say I want us to roll 10 balls. Okay, and I want the score to be 10. Okay, and this test is failing. So I need to write the minimal code as I can. So what is the minimum code to make to make the test now pass? If I just keep a score var here, So let's see if that makes the test pass. Okay, it makes it. And we'll check all the tests, right? Oh, very good. Very, very good. So let's do a refactoring. Here is nothing to do refactor. It's okay. And here also not refactor. We can do a lot of refactoring. So we can roll once and we can roll 0. So the bounding is working for, let's say, not strike or spare. So Dennis, what do you think the next test that will fail?
Michael, I'm sorry. I have
No
some
problem.
errand here.
No.
Okay, I will look at the recording.
That's no problem. That's no problem. So Liran, do you know what might be the next test that will fail? Okay, Ole. Ole was in our lecture. So the next test that will fail is spare, right? Because we can roll 0, we can roll once, and the next test is spare. So let's say if I roll 5 and then I roll 5 and then I roll 3. So how much is the score? Should be? The score should be 5 plus 5, right? Plus 3 plus 2 times 3. Because I have to treat this ball. I have to treat this ball as a, and I know the test that would fail. I know because I think of the next test that will drive my code, and it's surely this test. So in order this test to succeed, we have to maintain a Boolean. We have to, the first thing that one might think is to keep a Boolean is first in frame, and maybe to keep another Boolean is spare in last frame, or yada yada yada. But as I write the code, I noticed that it's not a good design, because I have to keep all the flag and doing a lot of bits and yuck. Okay, so I stopped. I begin to write the code, okay, and I begin to write nasty ifs and stuff like this. And as I begin to write the code, I feel something smelly. That if you do TDD, you smell it more often. You smell it more sooner. Then I say, okay, I have a bad design. So what could be the replacement for the design? And the answer is, because the bad design decision that I took is to aggregate the score in the roles itself. And I could do it later, and later I will have a knowledge of what happened before and late. So I think it might be better if I do it later. So I stop. Okay, I might even complete this code, and then in the you say the minimal code to make the test pass, and I make the test pass. Let's say I make the spare test pass, and after that we get to the refactor stage, and in the refactor I notice that it's smelly. This code is smelly. So in the refactor stage, I'm refactoring it. So let's do the refactor. Did everybody? How did I get to this conclusion? By following this flags. I make the test pass, but after this, I'm now improving the code without changing its behavior. Behavior means like spare is still spare, not behavior of arrays and stuff. So let's do it. So the minimal thing is for me to do is to keep an array, right? Let's say roles. And we can have, if it's 10 frames, and in that frame we can have, so we can have 21 roles, I think. and we have to keep an index. And rows index plus plus, it's first to increase, first put in rows and then increase the index, equals spins. And then we are doing the refactor, and then the score doesn't have to be as a field, it can be as this, and you can do score, and score plus equals rows, and int I equals 0. And let's say while I is less than 21 or something like this. I don't have an idea what I'm doing, right? I hope it's convincing. Score plus and return the score. And let's see that all of the tests are passing. And yeah, the test of the spare is still not passing, right? Because I didn't do much. Okay. So but I move into the right direction. I feel like it's the right direction. So the problem is that now with spares, I need to go, and I doesn't need to go over all the balls, because I need to know if in the correct frame there is a spare. So I have to loop over the frame. So it's not 21, it's not rows length, it's number of frames. And then I ask if plus rows I plus 1 is equal to 10, then it's a spare. Then I do score plus let's say 10 plus rows I plus 2. And then I can see the future. I can see in the future that the ball, I can take into the consideration that the next ball will be twice. And then I will increment the I by 2, because I'm now going by the frames, and each frame has 2 throws. I just don't be nervous. I'm just making this all the tests pass. I'm not using any mind, any cell in order to. But what happens if a strike? What happens if no? Just ignore all this and make the test pass. Okay, what happens here? Expected.
Should be ×2.
So should be.
No, it's not ×2 because it just switched to the second frame and then there. But maybe instead of 10, maybe index.
Else. No, I have to else.
To add the regular score.
Score plus equal rows I.
And I plus 1 because you're going by frame.
Plus rows I plus 1. I going by frame, correct?
It's an equal sign instead of plus.
Sorry. How did the compiler let me do that? Okay.
No, because it's valid.
It's valid, yeah. But yeah.
No, it's you're doing value. You put in the value there, and then you just add it, so it's still compiled.
Yeah.
It's already
so,
the previous one. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you see that it's not that fearful that we support spare, we support score 1, we support gather score, so many things, and you see that the ideal of the TDD, as test gets more generic, the codes as test gets more specific, the codes get more generic. When I get specific to a spare, my code even got more generic because it supports so many things. So as you go deeper, your code has to be more generic. So if you keep that in mind, it will help you. So what is, I think of myself Okay, so I'm pretty advanced. So what is the next test that might fail? I can see immediately it's a strike, right? Immediately. Do you guys see it also? That probably this one will fail if I do a strike. I hope that you can see it.
Yeah, because it doesn't care if it's only on the first one of the frame, or is it on the second one that you receive 10?
Exactly. And I feel like I feel there's a lot of feelings in the TDD, and I feel like if I write a test that will do strike, I will not succeed. So I'm just doing it, and in the worst case, the test will pass. No, so strike. So how do I imitate strike? I just throw 10. And let's say after this, I will roll like 3 and 4. So what I expect to be, by the way, I didn't do refactor because it still seems reasonable. It doesn't need a refactor. It's not a, so the score should be like 10 plus time multiply 3 plus 2 multiply 4. Yeah. This will be the score. But now it fails as I wanted. The score is failed. So I want to make the code more generic. So what is the minimum code that I can write here to make the code more generic? I can just add an if statement here. And if rows I, which is one throw, is already 10, then the score will be plus 10 plus rows I plus 1 plus rows I plus 2. Yeah, it's a strike. And then because I transferred, the strike is a case if you see our test will still not pass because
you
strike
still don't have the frame.
Yes, the strike is done with the frame. You succeeded, so the frame is over. So instead of giving the I plus 2, I give an I plus plus because the frame is over and only one both. And it's okay if you need a time to think of it and why the test is failing, in order to understand the deep understanding that you have to treat the I differently. It's okay, but it takes time. And if it's not strike, then it's a spare, then it's original. And here, in those two cases, I have to increase the rolls by 2 because okay. So let's see if this test is passing. Yeah, this test is passing. So it's fantastic. So now I'm beginning to feel a little bit confident. Sorry, there was a question. Okay, so now I'm feeling like I'm very confident. So let's do the test that I know it will fail and go over my top. Should perfect game. Okay, and perfect game, what is perfect game? I remember perfect game is 300. I remember it from my childhood when I looked on the screens above and I see all amazing people did like amazing stuff. And how many times do I have to throw this in order to get a 12, right? 12 times because 10 and other 2. The spare give you other 2. I think, yeah, I'm not. And I have to roll 10s every time. It might be that I'm wrong. It might be that it's 11. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. But, and I expect this test to fail. But whoa, wait a minute. This test is passing. in matter of fact, this is the full solution to the bowling game. So it's shocking because I didn't have the code was finished a lot sooner than I thought. It's really amazing because, okay, I expected to be null pointers and overflow and stuff, but I just, as I go in a smaller step, I succeeded to accomplish what I thought will take me like years. So after our code passes, so let's do a small refactoring, okay? And now I will demonstrate to you how to avoid like something like this. I hate it, I'm sorry. It's an opinion, but I don't like it. If spare, instead of like doing comment if spare, if strike, so let's do here is strike. And then our code written like a pro. And like I writing some song. If is strike, then score is 10 plus 2 balls.
Next row.
2 next balls pins. And if it's a spare, then next ball. You get my point, right? Now keep and skip. And okay, so this could be refactor much further, right? We can extract all of the if statement to a list, and the list can be match, condition matcher, and then condition matcher will. We can take it to a lot of level, but I will stop here because it's okay. It's okay. We don't have to be perfect. We can be also very good. And that's it, guys. We have the bowling game. Does anybody have a question on this example? I have another example. No questions.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have one.
Yeah.
So by this method, so it says that you need to create a test and then writing the code, or you can write a set of tests and start the coding. Because you did it one by one, and it seems to be like overkill.
Okay, so let's say the straightforward, like the conservative approach, say it's test by test, because the flow will become to you a lot of simple. But some people the TDD is even not for them, because some people doesn't need test. It's a small amount of people, right? But some people doesn't need it, and their code is good, and they keep all the structure, and it's doesn't. And some people, they don't need test by test because they know what they want to do, and they can do both tests. And you really have to feel it as you do this method. You really have to feel in what position are you. I can say that I do TDD a lot of years, and I still like the ideal that I'm doing test by test, because it given me a real so more relaxed to know that I'm doing it like the right than like building build blocks. But but other people told me like they other friends that doing TDD, they told me like we don't do it that way. We're doing 2 tests, or we're writing only 1 test that is creating the approach, the development, the design, and the other test is less simple, and it's also okay. But I'm a person that does it the conservative way, that does all the tests and the test by test. I hope it was the answer to your question.
Yep.
More questions?
Also, one thing to remember is that unit testing is only testing the interface. I mean, you don't need to add another one to check is strike or the strike method or something like that. It's only the outer interface that you're testing?
Can you repeat your question because I
No,
doesn't.
it's not a question. It's a statement that unit testing is always testing the interface of your class.
Right.
It's the behavior, not the internal implementation.
It's important note. It's very, very important note what you're saying, because it's driven us, the fact that it's like this, driven us to do a better code. Because if you are testing the bits and bytes inside the code and you feel like you wanted to test more than the interface, then it means that you have to extract the code into a different class and then test it on a different class. It's like an alert in your mind. So yeah, unit testing is just the outside, the score, the role, you know. By the way, I don't need this test because this test is dummy. I just make it so I can just keep this test, like for example. Okay, so we don't have a lot of time.
Can you check your coverage?
Okay, it's interesting. What you're saying is very interesting. Let's see. So the coverage is 21 line. Okay, it has to be an app. I don't need the app, right? So it's
100%. You have
100%, 100%, and this is very good. The code should be like for my example, it should be above 90. And the code coverage is not important in this way. If you do in TDD, you don't have to think of the code coverage because you know it will be okay. So guys, thank you for all the questions. And we allow more questions in after the session is end, because I want to release some people in too. I don't want to steal a lot of time. I just want to give you a different example, because this example, one might say it's a dumb example, because you know, it's a bowling game. It's a simple Java class. If I need to use TDD on the service, then I really will have a problem. So I just wanted to show you guys that TDD is not limited to something, is in all. And I excluding UI and Android, for example, because I don't know how to make the TDD in those scenarios, but I heard it's possible. Not in the terms of the clicks or in the clicks of the, but it's possible. But I want to show you server-side TDD, and I'm almost sure that it's possible to do it also in UI, but with Node. I'm not 100%. So let's do a service, okay? And it will be very simple. Okay, and we'll not write the code together. We just let's do the zip fetcher. It's a very smart service that allow API to fetch zip from Google Geo services and allow caching. For example, if I have a city and I want it's a zip. Okay, so I don't know how many of you guys know the Google Geo address, but it's an API. Which give me now request denied, but in an API to get the zip in any place in the world. So that's what we need to do. So let's start to do it by TDD way. And here something is very, very interesting, because the first test that I might do, because it's a service, what test the first that I have to do? And I can't do unit test because I have to write a controller and an API and an HTTP. So the first, let's do TDD test pyramid. The first test that I'm doing is not in the bottom in this scenario. It enforces me to do not unit test, not integration test, but system integration test, which is the component test, which is like opening the Postman and do a call, because otherwise I don't have any tests to do, because I need to make the controller and make the API. So let's make this test in Java. So in Java, we have something that called Groovy, and we have something that called Spock framework, which allow you to write tests let's say, in a more intuitive way. So the first test that I have to do in order to start the HTTP, start everything, is test a negative test. And I want you to take into consideration that if you don't know which test to do, a negative test, it's always a good approach to start with, because it enforces the design, but doesn't get too much specific. So let's see in this example, the first test that I will make is should fail bring zip code when not existing address. And yeah, I want when Google, which is in this case is stub, when Google will return me like 400 when the address does not exist, I want to return the user when it failed. And in my mind, I can see how I build the code around this. I know how will driven my code. So let's run this test. And this test will fail. As I said, this test will fail. Let's see it happening. Fail. Why 404? Probably, right? Because I haven't write the API. So let's write the API now. And what is the small amount of code that I need to do to make this test pass? And you now see how the component test is driven my design. So the first code is this. I want to call the Google by the REST template. And I don't care here for the success. So you now see that failure is something good to start with test. I don't care. I just care that if exception occurred, if it returned for me the 400, then I return failed. It's the only thing I care. And yeah, it succeeded. It succeeded. And then I ask myself, wait, I don't want this exception, right? I don't like to throw an exception and check stuff. I don't like this. So because I'm in component test, I can like set an error handler for the REST template, which not throw me exception. Okay. And in this code, I can just, let's say, ask the response. If the response, let's even try to write the code. So ignore this. And let's say if response, if not successful, then return whatever was there. This return failed. I'm in the refactor stage, guys. I'm in the refactor stage, and I want to do refactor. Okay, and I succeeded to do refactor. And now I see that my refactor is not done yet, because I'm thinking of the future. I might add the success case, and I think of the my code get messy in the controller. I don't like it. Okay, so I'm doing a refactor, and my refactor is to get this logic into interface and into service, Spring service. So interface will be like zip by address fetcher, and one of the implementation will be Google Geo REST zip by address fetcher. Okay, this all I included from this. I haven't done nothing. I'm just refactoring it, and you see how it's fun. It's fun to do something that it's very as name. So fetch. I'm doing fetch, and I started with null, but I wanted the test still to pass. So the minimum amount of code to make this test pass is just to copy paste this method without this section. Yeah. It's the same code that was on the controller. Let's see if it still passes. What? Oh, I don't need this one, yeah. Okay, okay, very good, very good. I'm done with refactoring. That's it. I'm done. So let's think of the next test that will forces me to drive. The next test, as I think of it, I did a negative test, and I think, and by the way, I'm not sure. I write this code alone, but it can be written in 1,000 ways of even TDD. But I think that the next test that will allow me to continue is the positive test. But one might say, okay, so write the positive test in the component test. But no, guys. The component test is very slow, and it takes a lot of time. And if you can lower the test level, then it's better. In that case, I can lower the test level. So I'm here in the service, so I can write an integration test. Okay? I hope that you already know how do I make this conclusion. And so I make a GeoFetcher integration test, which is the integration test in Spring, just lifting a part of the Spring, right? It's not supposed to be application, it's supposed to be just this bin. But I didn't want to waste time. But a part of Spring is up and we communication. And this test is better than component test because only partial Spring is up and not all Spring is up. So I'm authoring wire my zip by address fetcher, and I have here my stub. And now I want the success. So I'm stubbing the success. That's it. When you're getting the address as I expect, then I want to return the answer as Google will return, which is a map in plus code and global code. Okay, so this is the test. So sorry, I will write this test, and the test should be when you fetch like Pennsylvania, then the zip world, which should be equal to zip. And you see that I stubbed here, Pennsylvania zip. This is the test. And let's see if this test is passing. And let's see that the test is failed, sorry. Yeah, the test is failing as I wanted. So let's make the minimum code to make this test pass. And the minimum code is just to take into consideration the response, yeah? And to get from JSON object the plus code and the global code. Very simple. I'm not doing anything. Let's move. I'm not doing anything out of my head. I'm just following what the test said. And yeah, this test is passing. So we completed the first instruction of making the zip fetcher. We completed. This one we completed. And the next one is caching. So I want to allow caching, and I know the Spring caching. And I want to write the code to the test that will verify the caching. And the test is straightforward. Is when I'm fetching twice the same address, I want the stub, which is the Google, to only have one instance, to have only one count. So let's make this test. And I think this test might pass, right? Because this test is failing. Sorry, this test will fail. So I want to make the cacheable. So in order to the minimum code for my test to pass. Well, what is this? Okay. And let's see, this test should pass now. But no, the test is still failing, but I wonder myself why. And I'm thinking why it's failing, and I know the Spring has a dummy thing, which is you have to mention that the class is enable caching. And this thing I can potentially only knew in production, but when I write the test, I know it instantly, which is another benefit of TDD. Besides all the design and the stuff, the very good stuff that it will. So the test is now passing, so I can be sure that the caching is succeeding, not wait for production to know. Integration tests are very important tests. I think we experience it in it now as we grow, that the integration test is part of the, but the unit test is the most important test. After this integration test, And the component test is also important, but mainly for the design and for let's say that every time developer will develop something new, he will have in his mind that, okay, I shall not break his API. Every time, every commit, so this why this test is very hard to do, but it's I think it's returning in Israel we say in rebate, in dividend, like you get the returns. So guys, it's now 2 o'clock and I think we'll finish, but just 2 minutes like for questions. Does anybody have a question regarding everything that we talked about, TDD? Other people can, if you have something else, you can leave. It's okay, but I want to stay longer for people who have questions.
Michael, the only con for this is like it takes 3 times the development time. Is that right? Like
it takes 3 times. Sorry.
It takes 3 times the development time.
It
like
takes
if you
more
want to
time to
develop.
Okay,
Sorry?
okay. I want to say something about this. I want to say it's important question. In the first when I done TDD, it doesn't took me 3 times. It took me 30 times to do it more, to do it the same. But now I can tell you that it takes me, and I swear, it takes me less time to write the code if I'm doing a TDD than if I doesn't do a TDD. And I even didn't take into consideration that the bug, the amount of time of you spend on bugs and investigation escalation will return itself. So even the development time is much faster for me. Because imagine yourself when you're taking something new, it takes you a lot of time for a new technique. Let's say if you play guitar, so somebody tell you to play guitar differently, so it takes you a lot of time. But once you learn to play the guitar in a more better way, you are doing it fast enough to compensate. So for people who say like TDD is wasting time, I say I don't. My opinion is it's not true. It's just not true. It's true in the beginning, but after 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, when you do TDD, it's like it start to be like very, very intuitive and very straightforward. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Anybody else? Okay. So if anybody has a question, then I'm available at Slack, and thank you all for participating, and I appreciate it. And we'll see you at the next lecture. So thank you all.
Thanks.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.